Welcome to the Getting to the Root of It podcast, where our mission is to unearth the power and potential of the CBD hemp wellness industry. Grab a seat as we root out the myths from the marketing and discover the science-backed benefits of this popular plant medicine. Hosts Bob Finnegan and Sarah Nilsson shoot it to you straight to help you make educated choices regarding hemp-based wellness.
Hello and welcome to an amazing episode of Getting to the Root of It with Sarah and Bob. I, for one, have been looking forward to this episode since the beginning. I know that Bob and I, when we were first talking about, some of the guests we wanted to line up, this lady was certainly on the top of our list, right?
Absolutely. Amazing passion, talent, expertise. It's going to be awesome.
Yes, an interesting topic. I mean, like so many places we could go with this. We only have about 30 minutes, so let's get right into it. We have with us Stephanie Webb, who is a sought-after clinical aromatherapist for some of the nation's top brands. She became interested in essential oils and herbalism due to her desire to have the knowledge of how to treat her family safely and naturally. She's a trained herbalist and clinical aromatherapist with a passion for helping people develop new products. For 25 years now, Stephanie has been seeking new research in the usage of essential oils in a therapeutic health setting by continuing to research and teach others on the healing potential of plant oils, extracts, and herbal medicine. Teaching is her true passion. She has taught aromatherapy courses across the country with an emphasis on the human body's innate ability to heal and how to support it with plant extracts. And she's taught the local residency program as well as trainings for pharmacists. She has worked as a formulator in the supplement industry with a main focus of plant chemistry, as well as extraction of essential oils, CO2s, and the cannabis and hemp industry. Like, hello, Stephanie. That's a mouthful. It's amazing.
Thank you for that grand introduction. That was great. Thanks.
Does Stephanie sleep at night? Or
yes, goodness. She probably does. She probably has something. She has something for that.
I've got a lot of things for that.
Yes. She probably sleeps better than any of us. So before we get into it, all the interesting things we want to talk to you about, just briefly tell us a little bit about how'd you get here? How'd you get involved in this space?
So, it has a lot to do with, I would say, the way I was raised and to try to do things naturally. But then it really came into full focus for me when I had my own family. And my first child had a lot of allergies, and she had a anaphylactic reaction to penicillin and some other things that happened that made me have to really figure out what's an alternative option for her going forward. How am I going to treat a kid without, pharmaceuticals when she was having these severe allergic reactions? So it really changed my focus, and I was involved in organic farming with a clothing brand, and so I was always a little, naturally minded, but it really was because of my family, of how I had to, figure things out, and the more I learned, the more I was like, wow, the world, how does the world not know this? This is just amazing. And then I started realizing that, most of the plant extracts are really the basis of most pharmaceuticals, but they synthesize them and alter them and whatnot, and it changes. So it's really just the basic medicine or the medicinal aspects of these botanicals that we're seeking. So
that's really interesting. Well, first of all, born out of a need, right? Need something to support the health of your own child, and then as you start learning about it, you're like, wow, there's a whole world out there that knows about this. So tell us just a little bit about the history of essential oil. If someone who doesn't know much were to say, where did all this start? Obviously it wasn't here, right?
No,
in the United States.
Yeah, right. It's it's gained popularity in the United States, but it really does come from Europe. It's traditional medicine over there. It's been used for centuries, and they have evidence of it being used with Egyptians, and they found it they use the embalming resins and all of these other things they found over there. And most of the pharmacies in Europe, when I was there 20 years ago, I remember not being able to find Neosporin. You know, I had a cut and not being able to find it, but having all of these other homeopathic and botanical remedies that at that point in time I really wasn't aware of their healing powers. But I'm sure things have changed now. I haven't been to Europe in a while, but you know, I think that was their first line of defense, was botanicals. And then you go even further back into, you know, how older cultures, as far as what they've been using. You know, Ayurvedic medicine is traditional medicine in India, and you have your Chinese herbalist Chinese medicine, and that has been around forever. So I think most of these cultures, these older cultures, have their own traditional form of botanical medicine that they've used.
That's interesting, because here in the United, and when I say here, I mean in the U.S., or you know, some people would see that as sort of cuckoo or voodoo, or it doesn't really work, or it's only for like hippie moms that, you know, live in the mountains. Right. They would use really, like, it's got, you know, the first thing I would do is go get the Neosporin, like you're saying. So would you say it's kind of starting to be recognized as more legit medicinal benefits for some, or what do you think that's all about?
I do think it's, you know, America is so dependent upon pharmaceuticals, and there's good and bad to it, but I think we spend more money on pharmaceutical medicine than any other country in the world. And sadly, we are actually the sickest country in the world. So, you know, I don't know that it's actually fixing the root problem. And I think botanicals do seem to, you know, people that are into natural medicines, they tend to be into food as medicine, and, you know, spirits and meditation and all these other things, and exercise. So it's a whole package. It's not like you can take, you know, one thing to fix something. It's usually a Band-Aid. So in America, you know, we have a lot of what I would call folk herbalists, and you know, they're the kind of hippies that live in the mountains, and we have a lot of that, but they're extremely educated, very smart, and it's now turning into, you can now kind of seek out clinical aromatherapists and clinical herbalists, and you know, there's a whole, it's like an undercurrent of what's happening naturally in the world, and in America specifically.
So not a lot of people like using oregano on a burn while they're chugging a Diet Coke. Like, right. It's kind of one or the other right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you wouldn't want to put oregano on a burn, but yes, in theory.
Well, I see how much I know, Stephanie.
Or
by the end of this 30 minutes, right? Exactly.
But, yeah, sorry, that was hypothetical. I wasn't talking about me.
That's fascinating. I mean, it sounds so, you know, relatively new for most people. You know, I know me personally have, over the past maybe 10 years, have really learned, you know, much more about the things you put on in and around your body. Whereas, you know, thousands of years of medicinal background here and in other countries and other cultures, you know, where would someone start? What are, you know, maybe some common uses for essential oils today?
Yes, there. You know, I get that question a lot, actually. And so on my website, which is Stephanie Webb Consulting, I have a free PDF which gives all of my favorite resource books, because that's really what I tend to lean on, is my most trusted experts in the field that have written these great books. And so, because there's so much online that it's hard to decipher for the layman what's appropriate and what's not, and what's safe and what's not, and what's used for what. So I like to use my books as a resource. So essential oils have incredible properties as far as being, you know, they can be antiviral, they have antibiotic potential, they have antifungal potential, they have immune stimulating potential. It's across the board. You can use them for a lot of different things, internally, topically, and aromatically. They can be used all different ways as
so does Does one plant in particular have certain benefits while other plants have different benefits, or do they have more than one use? Maybe give us an example.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think initially of peppermint and essential oils, they're around, they're in our world, they're all over the place. You think about, I think about like peppermint. Peppermint is a leaf. When you break the leaf, it's, smells really fragrant of peppermint, and that's the essential oils that are being released. And they're there to protect the plant from getting eaten by a bunch of bugs or pathogens. And so, that's its purpose on the plant. But for us, it can do all sorts of things. When we take peppermint internally or use some peppermint tea, it's great for digestion. When we smell peppermint, it tends to carry more oxygen to our brain and wake us up. Or if we rub peppermint on our temples, it's an incredible thing for somebody that's suffering from headaches. So they have all of these different uses, and most plants are like that. They have many different uses in one plant. Absolutely.
That's interesting. So how would you even, I guess that goes back to the books you're saying, as far as like, how would you know all of that about the peppermint? What about different parts of the plant? Is it always the flower or the leaves, or are different plants have different?
That's a great question. They extract essential oils from all different types of plants, and different, like the flowers, the leaves, the roots. They extract it from everything. And so, for example, the bitter orange tree, they actually extract an essential oil called petitgrain from the leaves and the stems, the twigs. And then they also extract neroli from the little fragrant blossoms, the orange blossoms. So you can get three, very different essential oils from the same exact plant, and they're all used extremely differently. So it is really interesting, and it's, I look around and I feel like the plant world is full of healing potential that we haven't even uncovered, everything. So it's an exciting arena to be in, because I see potential in so many things.
Mm-hmm. I remember when we had a conversation prior, you were talking about a plant, and you were saying that, the farmer would sell, I believe it was some kind of an orange or something, and part of it would go to one industry, and then they would like use something with actual peel and go to another industry. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah. So basically that was, essential oils are steam distilled, and we have citrus oils that are actually what they consider cold pressed. It's a different technique. It's not a distillation technique. And cold pressed goes back to, the wording is no longer, they're not physically pressing these rinds like they used to. What they do now is they put these, orange, let's say, or lemon, and they put it on, it goes on a belt, and then it goes to this, imagine like a barrel with a bunch of sharp metal teeth, and it gets rasped, and it's got flowing water on it. So the oranges get rolled around this metal teeth, and then underneath it drops in, you have your rind that's all kind of, crushed up with this big grater, and you have water in there. And then the fruit is then sent on to like a juicing facility. So then they would extract the lemon juice or the citrus juice from the actual fruit. But they've already taken off the rind, and that's what the essential oils are, extracted from. Then they separate the kind of this rind pulp from the water, and they squish the essential oil out of it, and they they separate it that way. So it's really interesting, but that makes all citrus oils that are done that way, it makes them not as shelf stable. They should be refrigerated. all other essential oils, I would say most other essential oils, they have an extremely long shelf life, but citrus oils without refrigeration, I would say, 6 months to a year. With refrigeration, I would say 2 years. So they're not going to be as shelf stable as a regular, sandalwood or lavender or something like that.
So what were to happen if we had a citrus, for example, and we didn't keep it in the fridge and it's past a year? I mean, is it harmful or is it not as effective? Or
Yeah,
what do you mean?
it can actually cause sensitization on the skin. So it can actually, cause people to have rashes and things like that. And once you smell like a fresh orange essential oil versus an older orange essential oil, you can pretty quickly tell one smells very off. It just doesn't smell fresh, and like a fresh orange, it doesn't smell like that anymore. So
one thing I've heard about essential oils is that you're supposed to store them in a dark bottle. Does sunlight affect the efficacy of those?
yes, that is true. And in my opinion, it's more so the aromatic compounds evaporating. So because they're what they consider volatile, you don't want to heat them up, because when you heat up an essential oil and you've got the lid off or you're putting it in some boiling water, it's going to evaporate real quickly and you're going to lose a lot of those healing compounds out of it as it evaporates. Now, something I do like to do is make like a steam pot if I'm congested, and I'll put some, warm water in a bowl and put some eucalyptus or something like that, and then lean my head over it and take some deep breaths. I mean, that's a great way to do it. But in general, you're going to want to keep the lids on tight and keep them in, leave them in your car for too long and all of that,
Mm-hmm. Is there any plant that it's not an oil? I don't know what it would be, a powder or a sap, or is it always an oil? I guess essential oils, maybe I just answered my own question.
No, I mean, essential oils aren't actually a true oil. You have they're considered a volatile organic, substance. And then you have like lipid oils, like your olive oil, your jojoba oil. Those are great carrier oils, like your avocado oil and all of these lipid oils that are fatty oils that can be wonderful carriers when you're using them topically on your skin. And then you also have, in the kind of essential oil realm, you have what's called resins. And, so that's a little bit different as well. It's not a true essential oil, it's a resin. So yeah, there's a lot of things to learn.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's all interesting.
The thing that I find fascinating is all of the different applications and different uses. And being so new to it, you mentioned the word organic. Is there an actual certification, like a USDA certified organic seal for these types of oils? And if so, what are the differences, from all the other, products that you might see out there?
Yeah, that's something that I'm really passionate about, and I feel like it's extremely important to have that USDA organic seal on it. It's a rarity in this industry, to tell you the truth. And it's because, when we, sometimes you can get oils that are clean and pure and they don't have that organic certification. It might just be because that particular farmer can't afford, to get his soil tested or whatever. But it's all fine and dandy. But in the large scale of things, it's important to do all of this testing to make sure, because when we're taking these things medicinally and using them topically, and you think about, if you're watering this plant with contaminated water, you could have heavy metals transfer in high quantities. You could have pesticides that are concentrated in high quantities, because when you think about the the plant material that we're having to use to extract, the essential oil, it's an immense amount of plant material. I mean, you take pounds and pounds of plant material just to extract one little 10 mLs of essential oil. So you're capturing in a concentrated version all of the heavy metals and all of the pesticides, and it can be dangerous. I've had situations where somebody said, oh, I did X, Y, and Z and this frankincense burned me and it was horrible. And I thought, well, that's strange. So where did you get that oil from? They said, oh, it was on sale and I got it at Marshall's. And I thought, okay, well, that's not a medicinal oil. That's like a fragrance oil, and they're extremely different.
Right.
Yeah.
No offense to Marshalls. No offense.
Right. Exactly. No offense, but there's a lot of that happening. You're not going to buy your medicinal essential oils from CVS. It's just not something that I would recommend, or not to, say names anywhere because I don't know who sells them around town, but you really want to research and have that stamp of approval, because at least it's very hard to get that organic certification, and it's not convenient for the seller or the buyer. It's extra paperwork. It's very complicated, and it is it's just another level of security that you have this pure product, and we know it. We know that it's good. Mm-hmm. So it's something that I, definitely feel like it's important. It's one of the most important things when we're looking for medicinal essential oils and botanicals. All botanicals, even herbs,
vetted, right? Yeah. Somebody said, okay, we did all the research for you. We've done the studies or the labs on it or whatever. And it's interesting too, because I've been in sales for the better part of my life, and sometimes price becomes an objection to people, like, well, wow, I can get this one here for a fraction of the price. And it's like, well, my answer is always, well, yeah, but I guess it just boils down to are you more concerned about budget or results? And if if it's budget, then okay, but you can't really come back and say, I didn't get the benefit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or it hurt me. And I've seen that a lot. I've seen where people have say, oh, it gave me a headache when I smelled it. And I was like, well, which one did you use? And all, the same stories, that it can be harmful for sure, especially if we think we're doing something beneficial with a really cheap oil,
Right. So give us a perspective. First of all, I think this is interesting. How much of a plant, pick anything, let's just say lavender or whatever, if you have something else off the top of your head, how much of the actual plant is needed to create a, I don't know, like a 15 milliliter bottle or something? And then what's the price difference between just a regular or a synthetic versus a USDA certified organic?
Yeah, I would say the price difference is, it's across the board. It really is across the board. But it depends on the company, and it depends on where it's coming from. If you're buying this really fancy high altitude organic lavender from France, you're going to pay, a little more money than if you're getting lavender from Bulgaria or something. So it depends, but in organic versus non-organic, you're going to pay at least around another, half. Like if something's $100, it might be $150, for organic. You're going to pay more definitely for organic, and it's worth it. It's worth it in the grand scheme of things.
And how much actual like plant has to go into? Yeah. Cause I'm thinking, I'm looking at some lavender. I don't see any oil. So there can't be too much coming out of one stem.
No, right, exactly. It takes, pounds and pounds. I think it's 30 oranges for 115 ml of orange essential oil. I think it's around, maybe it was 5 pounds of lavender for 10 mLs of essential oil. I would have to check those numbers, but basically, high concentration of, lots of plant material in general. I know the last time I did a distillation here, we did lemon balm, and lemon balm is one of the least producing of essential oil, but it's extremely beneficial. And so I had, like a paper grocery bag, and I compacted all of my lemon balm that was in my garden in 8 of these grocery bags. So full of leaves, 8 grocery bags full of leaves. And I got about 1 drop of Melissa oil.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, that's not a lie. So yeah.
8 grocery bags. Okay, Stephanie.
Yes.
8 grocery bags for 1 drop. Well, then my next question is, how much do you need if you're like formulating something? How many drops do you need to formulate something? I
mean, it's kind of in the aromatherapy world, we say 1 drop per dose is kind of the average, because it's so concentrated, you really don't need much at all. So, depending on what the issue is, if you have a cut, you would just put 1 little drop of lavender on your wound, and that would help be antimicrobial for your cut. But when I say all of those 8 grocery bags of lemon balm, the cool aspect of it is it's not just the essential oil that I was looking for, it was actually the hydrosol. So that's the water that's coming through the distillation process, and in America we use it a lot. You see, like rose facial spray, or we use it in skincare a lot. So the hydrosol is what comes out of the distillation process, as well as the essential oil. So even though that particular distillation, I barely got any essential oil, I think I had gallons and gallons of hydrosol that I could use, which is amazing.
Is that kind of like if I was brewing some coffee, where you put the grounds, the water runs through it, and then the coffee is the hydrosol, and then maybe the oil sort of floats on top? Is that my layman's way of sort of?
Kind of. Yes.
Close? No? Okay.
Well,
swing and a miss, Sarah.
We can think of it like that, but it is.
And don't use oregano on the burns.
Okay. This podcast is really for me.
Right. We're going to teach you. Yes, the oregano will burn you, so you'll hurt your burn if you put oregano on it. But you'll kill all of the bacteria, so it would be painful, but it would be clean. I
knew there was something.
Right. Exactly.
I love
it. So it's similar, but it's a different way of thinking about it. But yes, you would then have your plant material that's left, like your coffee grounds, and you've got your water, and then you've got your oil that comes from it. So,
on the label of the skincare, would it say lemon balm, or would it say something else?
I mean, it would probably say the Latin name, which is Melissa officinalis, but it is lemon balm. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. So how accessible is certified organic essential oils? You mentioned that, it's pretty rare for the industry for I guess a manufacturer or farmer to go through that process of getting certification. But, to just the average consumer, how accessible is finding that, or how do we know what to look for?
Well, you always, it's become very tricky, because I've seen in this industry that a lot of things say organically sourced, and that's not the same as being certified organic. That's basically saying that your farmer is, saying that he didn't spray anything on it, but it's just his word, and there's really no telling. And what he's done, it could be true, it could be organically, farmed, but without that certification, it's really just, hearsay. It's not official. So having that certification is a really big deal, and you've got to find the emblem, that USDA or organic certified emblem.
Is there any circumstance in which you would not, it wouldn't be as important? Like, I don't know if it's an aromatic benefit or something something that's not going internal that maybe that it wouldn't be as important?
It's another good question, because I've been asked that before, and I've had people say to me, "Oh, well, I'll just use the ones that aren't organic. I'll put them in my diffuser, and I'll just smell them. I'll just get the aroma." And in my mind, I think, most immediately, the fastest way into our bloodstream is through our lungs. So I would personally never put that in my diffuser, because I don't want that in my body. It would go into your bloodstream really fast. So if I were to be using it as a cleaning solution for my toilets and my countertops, I would maybe use it not organic, but outside of that, no.
Isn't that interesting, Bob? I feel like I want to go through my house and look at all my reed diffusers. I don't think I've ever seen an organic.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to just hear, how concentrated these are, and it makes real, logical sense on the benefits, of essential oils, and I think you've made a compelling case. I think, the question I think many, consumers might have is the certification and that extra expense that I may pay, or even the trouble in finding the product, right?
Yeah.
What's the flip side of that coin? What are some of the risks or some of the things that consumers should be thinking about as they make and weigh those decisions for what they put in their body?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely, I guess from my point of view as a formulator, my job tends to be me looking at the chemistry of each plant. And so I kind of going to say I make it easier for the consumer, so that if I'm doing something, it's going to be organic. I'm going to confirm the chemistry is really good. I'm going to make sure heavy metal toxicity and microbial testing is all done. And so, knowing what I'm doing in my job makes it easier for the consumer, in my opinion. Especially people buying things that I'm working on.
Are there plants that interact with each other, like synergistically, you wouldn't want to put together, if someone was just got a beaker and some plants and was mixing up something? I mean, are there things that sort of either counteract or, don't work well together synergistically?
Yeah, and it tends to almost be an art for aromatherapists. They actually, that word synergy is something that we speak of often, and how plants, work with each other within their aromatic compounds and things like that. And something that I'm constantly doing, and I actually was at the lab yesterday working on this as well, where we may find, or I may find, the perfect lavender, let's say, and it's wonderful and it's great, and I'm using it in something that's for sleep, and it's just amazing, and all of the stars aligned, and we put it into production, and it's great. And then the next season, the lavender from that same area of the world had too much rain, and so its chemistry is completely different now, and it smells different. It's got different medicinal aspects to it. And then as a formulator, I then have to find, I've got to compare lavenders from all the way around the world to see which one fits the bill to be most similar to what my formula has been. So sourcing has been, it's kind of the challenge and the beautiful thing all in the same time, because it's plants. They're ever changing, and they're dependent upon weather and cycles, and they're dependent upon bug infestations, and all of these things that happen in the natural world affect the chemistry. And it's super exciting and cool and interesting, but at the same time can be a challenge.
Sure.
Kind of reminds me of wine tasting in some ways, where different years or different temperatures or climate
Yeah.
may have a different impact on the quality or even
Yes.
the taste or
Yeah.
otherwise.
Absolutely. I mean, we have good years and bad years, and there's plenty of times where I'll talk to farmers from a region that say, "Oh, this year's crop is terrible," and I'll say, "How much of last year's do you have on hand? Because I think I'll buy it all." Things like that. So those kinds of things happen. Where we really have to know what's happening in the industry to have a pulse on it.
Sure.
Thank God somebody's doing that work. It sounds like a full-time job. I'm just glad you're thinking and caring for us.
Oh,
I'm just
gosh,
over here putting oregano on my burn, so yeah, nobody wants me in charge of that.
You would know if you did that. Sarah.
Yeah, one time I would do that one, like peppermint in the eye. Isn't that an eye cream with peppermint?
Right.
I want to ask you really quickly to touch on dilution, and then I want to ask you for some of your favorite hacks before we run out of time. But dilution matters, right? There's different applications. You want to just speak briefly to, topical or oral or capsules, or what's the dilution process?
Dilution is important, especially for different situations. I say there's always a time and place for using an essential neat, which means undiluted. So for that, I would do, it's more of an acute issue. So like a wound, if I had a cut, I would probably, or yesterday I got stung by a wasp actually. And so I had a bottle of lavender. I just put a drop directly on because it's got antihistamine properties. And so I put one drop on where that wasp bit me and stung me, and swelling was gone within minutes, and it was great. So there's always the situations where neat is preferable, but in general, you do always want to dilute your essential oils. They're strong, they're concentrated, and they actually absorb faster into your dermal layers of your skin when you have a carrier oil or a lipid oil, to kind of drive it into your skin tissue. So that would be, if you're trying to address joint pain, it doesn't make sense to do it neat. You would really want to dilute it and massage it and, make sure that it's getting into your, muscle joints and through your skin layers. So dilution is important internally as well. When you don't dilute, you risk all sorts of things, mucus, disruptions and burning and, stomach upset. So I don't ever recommend that. You always want to dilute your essential oils and in appropriate amounts. And that's where my training has come into play with dilution internally, using them for their medicinal aspects and what's appropriate and what's not and what's safe and what's not and all of that. So
I feel like we could do a whole podcast on dilution. Maybe you'll come back for that.
Yes, I would love that.
But in wrapping up, I had a kind of a cool question, or I thought so. But do you have like a couple of hacks, essential oil hacks you could share with us here real quick?
Yes, absolutely. In my daily life, I use oils all day long, and I don't even... it's like second nature to me. So I had, I have teenagers, and they tend to leave food out when I go to bed early. And so I'll wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a box of something left open, and there's sugar ants now on my kitchen counter. So that kind of thing happens. And what I would do for that is just put peppermints around the windowsill, around everywhere in the kitchen, and the sugar ants hate peppermint and they don't come in. So it kind of, deters sugar ants. And I actually do that around my front door jamb as well, because I have, like you can see, it's not sealed all the way. So I put either a little peppermint or a little eucalyptus around my door jamb so that the bugs don't come in. So that's one of my hacks. Yeah. And then I know, my daughter, she had braces. She just recently had them taken off. And, when they tighten braces, it's so painful. And there's really, I don't like to even give my kids Tylenol or Advil or anything like that. I will if they need it, but they haven't needed it because these other remedies work so well. And I know that I've used the ice roller bottle, and that has all of these incredible healing oils in it, and she just rolls it on her jawline and it's gone. The pain is gone. There's all sorts of things that I do. I put rosemary, a couple of drops in my shampoo bottle, because rosemary really tends to stimulate hair growth and it's good for the scalp. And so I add that to my shampoo. We could do an entire show on just hacks.
We could do a whole podcast on essential oil hacks. I'm going to write that down.
Essential oil hacking.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to.
I love it. I'm there for it.
I like the ant thing, but I'm really probably going to go get some rosemary today.
Because I'm sure that if you got rosemary like scented shampoo, it's not going to have the same effect as using some actual essential oil.
Probably not, but yes, probably not.
Okay, Stephanie. Well, this has been very interesting, but just as interesting is finding out just a little bit more about our guests. So I just have a couple of quick questions for you, if you don't mind playing along with some fun facts about our guest.
Yes.
What would you say is one thing that most people don't know about you?
Oh, so one thing that people don't know about me. Well, I had a business prior to me getting involved in aromatherapy, and I was on the Martha Stewart show, so that was really exciting as a mom entrepreneur. And I got to be on that show with Maya Angelou, and it was incredible. I mean, just being, and Martha Stewart was extremely accommodating and just very generous and kind. I know she has a different rap, but I think one of my favorite parts of being on it was doing the hair and makeup for hours and getting to chat with Maya Angelou and, and then going on to the show. It was a great experience. It was lots of fun, something that I can look back and say that was pretty cool that I got to do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, last question. If you could have one superpower, what would you say that would be? Anything you want.
I would say, because of this industry, and I have a lot of people that come to me that are sick, and usually they're the ones that have been, there's nothing left for them in the Western medicine world, and they've been sent home to die. I mean, like literally, these are most of my clients, and so I would say to heal people without having to do the work, being able to help people. I think I do help them, but it's just, it's usually, it's a long road and it's a lot of learning and whatnot, but healing people would be a good superpower. That would be a great superpower.
Okay, well, now I feel pretty shallow for saying I want to be able to sing. Okay, I need to revisit that. It's been really great talking to you, Stephanie, and, just appreciate all the work you're doing for the industry, and love knowing there's people like you that are willing to get on podcast and doing the hard work and sharing their knowledge and giving us tips. And we do hope to have you back and unpack some more of this very vast and interesting subject. So thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Awesome. Bob, have a great week.
Fantastic.
We will catch you next time on another episode of Getting to the Root of It with Sarah and Bob. And until then, be well.
Thank you for listening to Getting to the Root of It. If you enjoyed today's show, visit gettingtotherootpodcast.com to access information about our guests and to sign up for our newsletter. Be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.